This podcast is supported by Siemens, your partner for industrial-grade AI.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of our Industrial AI podcast. My name is Robert Weber and it's a pleasure to talk to
Peter Seberg. Good morning, Robert. Good morning, afternoon, evening to all of you, dear listeners, wherever you are.
Good morning, dear Peter. How are you?
I'm fine. I was thinking, well, nature reawakes and blossoms are flowing into my nose and eyes and everywhere. But besides from that, yeah, that's good. You know, we've been waiting for that. So I'm feeling fine. Thank you.
Perfect. So we have a long main part. So let's start with some news, Peter.
Yeah, well, the news is it's interesting. It's actually news that was maybe we missed it, both of us, as we were.
Oh no, really?
Well, I don't know. Maybe we were too busy moderating because it's. I think it was kind of announced by Siemens in this case at the Hanover Fair, and it was announced and just as a point of record, yes, Siemens is our partner. And we're very clear about, you and I, we decide what it is that we talk about. But if important things take place, even if they come from our partner, I think we need to talk about them. It was Cedric Nike. He's the member of the managing board and the CEO of Digital Industries. And he, and I hadn't seen it, but and Siemens brought it just a couple of days back, I believe, maybe before. But they introduced the development of a industrial foundation model. Now, that is something that you and I, together with the people around us at our conferences, started talking about when? 3 years ago?
Oh, yeah. 4 years ago, I think, yeah.
A long time. Maybe from the very beginning in Würzburg at our very, very first conference.
And I remember that Boris said, yes, we can do that, So Siemens can do that. And now we are here.
Yeah, now we're here. That's really great. Well, part of the discussion is, and we'll come to that at the end, because Siemens is inviting you, dear listener, if you want to be part of that. Now, and maybe that is exactly the point. I do recall there were so many different perspectives. And one perspective was at that time that I think the big automation companies represented at our conference, they were kind of, withholding or maybe honestly sharing, like, we can do this, but none of them have all the data. I mean, none of them have the complete view. And of course, could it be Rockwell? Could it be Siemens? Could it be Mitsubishi? The big back half, there's many other ones that maybe at least you could say could come close, and each of them could do it and maybe are doing it. That's, and I do not know. It was just the announcement of this very industrial foundation model that we have been talking about so many times, right?
But you mentioned foundation model. What kind of foundation model? Is it a time series foundation model? Is it a vision foundation model?
Yeah, right. I haven't seen the word time series, for example. So that's a very good first question that you have there.
So we need to invite him.
Yeah, most certainly. I think it's the way to look at this is that, if today you're going to be asking, it doesn't matter what kind of large language model to say, draw me a cat, draw me a dog, or the other way around, what is this? If you ask, again, any of the players that you and I and that people listening say, what is this? And, and the language model, which is really, I think always was supposed to be called the foundation model, the foundation of language of humans, and that's a point that we need to talk about as well, which then comes to the point of where, starting with OpenAI, I believe they probably were the first. At times that none of us that were not completely into it had no idea that, all of our data kind of around the internet was scraped. And I'm sure that is exactly what, of course, Siemens will not be doing. And that's why they are officially inviting you you, dear listener, with your industrial data to join. So in the end, instead of understanding what is a cat, what is a dog, what is things that we have been doing foundation in all the languages around the world, and they certainly will have included certain elements of the engineering world, but not specifically, right? So if you're going to say, write me or produce an image of a pump. Yeah, I can imagine. I was going to try it before, but I didn't. I think it can be done. Probably no. It will do a pump, because somewhere in these general foundation models there will be an image of a pump. But then the next thing is that produce me the engineering drawing, the computer added design or manufacturing model. The design, the engineering piece that then is being communicated, down the line to those people who are then going to produce it, right? And that should be, and maybe we come here to, you mentioned Boris, industrial grade. It needs to be industrial grade. It needs to then be understood, on the other hand. And it's not like, I'm going to have a cat that is not exactly the type of cat that I wanted. Well, it doesn't really matter. No, if there is this one very small piece not correct, well, the pump is not going to be working, kind of thing, right? So, and I think that's what we're looking at. So train a model not with the language of the world in English, as you and I are doing, which is not our normal language, in German, in French, in any of the other 250 or the 2,500 languages around the world, but the language of the engineer.
But that sounds for me that it's a multi-model approach, right?
I assume, yeah.
Yeah, so we talk about cat cam topics, we talk about then time series. Cat cam,
dog,
cat cam,
cat cam, and dog cam,
and dog cam, exactly, and then we talk about time series for sure, but I think LLMs are not capable to do that with time series. So
we're gonna share the specific piece on the Siemens website in this case. And before I forget, so there's a second person who is the lead for the industrial foundation model, and she's on there. Tali Siegel is her name. And on that specific website with her image, I assume, representing exactly this project, they do not talk about time series. So I think that's a very good question. And you say foundation models cannot do a time series?
No, foundation models are capable, but large language models maybe are not capable now. But I have something when it comes. Right. But I have something interesting. Yeah, you want to add something?
No, not. I think on this topic, I think what is important is very specifically, they're inviting you to join. Specifically, they're mentioning real-world contextualized data sets. That's very interesting. First thought is, of course, OPC-UA. Now, I'm sure that they are not only looking for, but that was, we've been talking MCP now for a long time. That's all about context as well. So I guess whatever kind of other data that you can share that is not just data in the form of structured, unstructured, typically numbers, words. Well, as soon as the words come in, typically it is the contextualization. It is the information model of saying the pump that I mentioned is the pump, A23, and then there's a description, and then you know exactly what the status of the pump is, who has produced it, etc., etc., etc. So that's what it is they're looking for. So if we're going to be leaving this topic, I think it's a great opportunity for those of you that didn't finish that thought, which are maybe the smaller companies, and you say, yeah, we need this. I've always been looking to, and it, there is all these organizations, and we discussed it, and nobody really started it. Which I don't know. Maybe you did. Maybe there's many other organizations as well. But this is your chance. If you feel like you want to be part of this, we'll share the link and share your data.
Perfect. What I'm interested in, did you get any feedback on your last episode, the MCP OPC UA episode?
Feedback, yeah, I've been discussing many different places, but not specifically as far as you mean, yeah, we need to do this, we're not going to do this. I feel like everybody is kind of looking at what is this. I mean, the comments that I've seen, they go very widely. It is the topic of, to be very honest, and I think Stefan Suulak, we said it before, and I'm very much looking forward. I think we're going to be seeing Stefan as well in a couple of months again in the Alps, or not?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, and Stefan is the guy. He is the guy like you, the other engineers out there who are building products on the basis of, let's say, AI in general, machine learning, whatever, today. So you are being paid today by a customer to come up with a solution. And Stefan, I feel many times, and he uses strong words with, he talks about all the fancy stories about agents and MCP and stuff like that. And I do believe that at the base that he agrees on the capability, but it is the potential. It is the what is he? He doesn't feel happy with the fact that everybody, and even including people that have maybe not that very detailed knowledge, are talking about what is possible. And I think I've said it in the past as well. For me, it's very easy to just talk about, what is going to be happening, because I am not building like Stefan. I do not close my notebook and go out to the customer, or I stay at home and I build what exactly it is. So I think that is the variety of people. And I must say, there's of 100 messages I see also in direct relation, 99 of them are very positive looking. And then there's one or two or three, like the Stefan, who is very, very much down to earth and say like, okay, I need to now build it, and I still have problem 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the old story, we did it, of 25 years ago. What is an agent? What is an agent? We've had agents before, so.
Yeah. Okay. I already mentioned that there are some obstacles when it comes to LLMs and time series. And then I have seen something interesting from ByteDance, the company behind TikTok. And they have launched a language model that allows you to talk to your time series. It's a GitHub project. It's an MIT license. And I'm share the link to the GitHub repository in the show notes. Important, it is not a time series model, but you can have time series explained to you. You can ask the chatbot then, what do you see in this time series?
Oh, really? What is their interest? Because time series, at least it feels like an engineering thing. Now, with time series, you can explain the weather, for example, right? If that's what and the weather applies to all of us, almost 10 billion people on this earth. But time series is not a topic for the consumer. That's why. So maybe I don't know ByteDance that well. That TikTok is only one of their projects.
Yeah, I think so. It's a huge company in China. We don't know what they want to do with that. But beware, these are not industrial AI data sets. So it's the typical open source data set. But I like the idea to talk to your time series and to get explanations. Yeah. Everybody can try out. It's very interesting.
Sure, maybe it is from another part of the world, from a company which you and I know. At least I don't know them, but relate to TikTok. So it's a completely different perspective from the automation company Siemens. But maybe in the end, maybe they will come up with technologies that each of us can be using.
Do you have anything else, Peter?
No, thanks. I think that's enough for today. As you suggested that you had a very long discussion. Tell us what is the base idea about?
There are 3 guests waiting, and they all talk to me about AI talents, how to attract AI talents. And I had a conversation with Thomas Hurd, Ziki Research.
We had him before, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we had him before, and I want to clarify, is there really data that shows that there is a movement from the US to Europe? So first of all, check the data. Then I had a discussion with Marco Huber, you know him, Marco, about are we prepared for these talents when it comes to universities? And the third guest is a guy who lives in the US, and it's Jakub Tomczak. And he gave us some exercise for Europe, what we need to do to attract more people. So I think it's a really nice episode.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to. As you recall, I'm always very, very careful that we don't want to become political. But at the same time, I thought, well, not we, but the world around us has been, Europe bashing for as long as we remember, right? We all, for as long as we do the podcast, everybody bashing ourselves, almost like as if we're sadistic and we're so bad. Well, I'm always saying we are good at technology, but we cannot bring it to market. And for that reason, people are leaving Europe and people want to go and study in Europe. So it's almost like, and again, I'm sure that we don't get into the politics of calling out names. Maybe we do, but we don't take position. And if maybe that at least a piece of that is being stopped, and I'm very much looking forward to what you just said, to Jakub's view, then I think that's a very nice thing to look.
We have a lot to do from Jakub's perspective.
Oh, yes, I can imagine. Still a lot to do, yeah, sure. Well, and maybe the first pieces are happening these days. I'm so looking forward to it.
Peter, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Robert, thank you. Have a great working day. Talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. My three guests are Thomas Hurt from Zeki Research, who tracks thousands of AI talents worldwide, Professor Dr. Marco Huber from the University of Stuttgart, and my third guest is a European in the US, Professor Dr. Jakub Tomczak from the Chan Zuckerberg Initiatives, who has given us some tasks to complete. Enjoy listening. Our first stop is at Zeki Research in London. Hello, Thomas.
It's a very good morning to you, Robert.
Thanks a lot. Thomas, are there any movements that you can see in your data when it comes to AI talent from the US to Europe?
USA will be a net exporter of AI talent in 2025. We have identified the top 800,000 AI talents globally, and we track their movements. And when we look at the data, Robert, in 2022, America was seeing an inflow of top AI talent from overseas at a rate of 400 individuals a month. That was part of a sustained trend going back over 15 years where the USA has seen similar levels of inflows. But in 2024 and going into 2025, we're now seeing that number drop to zero. And, the drivers for us are twofold. One is that the new American administration's decision to abruptly stop federal funding of research, particularly the National Institute of Health and the National Science Foundation, means that a very, very large number of individuals working in university kind of AI labs and, with tenure at various US universities now have no clarity around kind of future funding and will be forced to look for opportunities elsewhere. And we're already hearing.
Which countries are in demand? What do you see?
We see, I think the net beneficiaries of the outflow of, let's say, kind of research talent from America will be Germany and the UK. And so when we look in the data, we see around 5,000 individuals who were trained in the UK, but are now pursuing their research in America, and around 3,000 German-trained researchers, and then about 1,000 Swiss and 2,500 French. So we definitely believe that the UK and Germany could potentially now attract back the individuals that they themselves train to come back into their kind of research labs.
But do we talk about professors, PhDs, ML engineers? What kind of career level?
It will be across the piece. I think the biggest movement will be around young emerging talent because they are the most mobile.
So postdocs,
PhDs, and it will be not just within the university sector, but it will also be within the private sector, because the majority of individuals with kind of advanced degrees in computer science do go into the private sector. And so the other trend we're seeing is if we've looked at the top 20 US AI companies, and again, in 2020, they were hiring 3,000 software engineers a month, cumulatively amongst all 20 of the top AI companies in America. That number has literally fallen off a cliff to just around zero now. So there are less work opportunities in the USA as well as research opportunities. And that not only will PhDs and postdocs that have already gone to the States be looking now for roles outside the States in research, but there are less job opportunities as well for them in the United States, which means that they're likely to stay at home. So for us, there's a whole series of factors that mean that the US will become a net exporter of top AI talent in 2025.
Okay. Which sectors are particularly sought after?
For talent, I would say that, Robert, the US is still interested in hiring people with advanced skills in how you build and optimize large language models. So when we look at individuals that entered the USA in 2017-18 compared to 23-24, we see that a rise of 40% and above in the number of people who have advanced skills in, building and designing large language. So the US is still very much seeking to attract that specific talent. However, we see Europe and the US having equal demand for individuals who have what I would say are kind of the advanced skills needed to build world models. So models that are trained on the physical world and how to interact with the physical world. So individuals with advanced skills in kind of imaging and sensing and many of the skills that underpin industrial AI.
Yeah. You mentioned UK and Germany will benefit. What about France, Switzerland, the Netherlands, because they are also AI powerhouses?
From a talent perspective, Robert, we do see Switzerland, certainly Netherlands and France, Switzerland, having much less concentrations of top AI talent compared to Germany and the UK. My sense is that top AI talent in France tends to be concentrated in the kind of Paris area, and it's nearly as diffused and broad as you would see in Germany and in the UK. I think that certainly the major Swiss companies have an opportunity to attract kind of talent in the kind of AI health space. I think there would be an opportunity now, and particularly from the USA. But we definitely still see Germany and the UK as the major beneficiaries of this very dynamic change in the talent market.
Okay. Are we in Europe prepared for this talent coming from the US?
I believe that to maximize the opportunity, companies and governments will need to take a very systematic approach, and they would need to be very proactive in targeting exactly the right people that they want. And my company is helps companies do that. I think if you kind of wait and hope that the opportunity will come your way, that would not be the best plan. I think definitely got an opportunity now to start proactively engaging people that you thought you would never be able to hire, but now are available or are coming available on the market. And that would be individuals in the USA at the moment. But I think also there's an opportunity for companies to actively engage with the young talent in AI university labs, doing masters and PhDs, who by default thought that their best opportunities would be in the United States on completion of their degrees. And now, I think need to be kind of offered a broader number of opportunities.
Oh, that's interesting, yeah.
And I think what would be really important for European companies is to broaden out the kind of people that they will look at. So deep tech companies in Europe tend to hire people from their local universities with very specific skills, whilst American companies will hire much more broadly and hire people still with computer science skills, but with less specialist skills, and they will allow them to grow in the job. And so I think there is a reimagining for Europe about being much more systematic and proactive about who they target, but also being imaginative about kind of you're looking at a kind of broader skill set across a broader geographic landscape.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk at the end about salary, because there's a huge gap between Europe and the USA. How to bridge the gap?
I think that the salaries are going to fall because AI is starting to augment already the roles both in kind of research and the application of AI in the market. And we've been through the first phase, Robert, of where AI is augmenting people already in roles. But we anticipate that in 2025, AI will start to allow companies to not only stop hiring kind of software engineers, but actually to start divesting themselves of some talent. And that will create less shortage in the market of these skills. And I think it will bring down salary costs. The second is that for the very top AI talent, they are motivated by working on really complex challenges rather than just getting paid very well. So companies that are working at the frontier of innovation or are demonstrably concerned and investing in responsible AI will attract top AI talent that wants to work on complex subjects in a responsible, ethical way.
Mm-hmm. I want to come back once again at the end to the professorships, because anyone familiar with German appointment procedures know how long it takes. I'm not a specialist when it comes to the appointment procedures in the UK, but maybe when it comes to professorships, is this a fake debate to attract these kind of researchers? Should we focus on what you mentioned, postdocs, PhDs?
I believe, Robert, you want to focus on postdocs, PhDs, and master's students. I would say that the technology is moving so quickly that you want to be investing now in the individuals who are kind of shaping that technology, who are effectively embodied by that technology, and are capable of reinventing themselves every 2 years as the technology progresses. So it does feel that you need to focus on that area. And, we work with companies to allow them to look at people who are graduating in 2026, 2027, not even yet in the workforce, and yet still showing early in their career the potential to be a future leader. And we bring data to that task. But it's also true, Robert, that young talent is highly attracted to work alongside people that are already proven to be best in the field. So when we've looked at who's attracting the best talent, it tends also to be linked to whether within that organization there is somebody, a kind of assistant professor or a professor level in a university, say, who is a proven leader in the field.
Mm-hmm. Thomas, thank you very much. It was a pleasure again looking into the data. Thanks a lot and greetings to London.
Greetings to you, Robert. I wish you and all your listeners a very, very good day.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm now talking to Professor Dr. Marco Huber from the University of Stuttgart. Hello, Marco. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Robert.
Bringing US talent back to Europe, do we actually have enough space for all this talent? And let's say you recruit a great researcher, perhaps he brings a team with him, needs GPUs and infrastructure. I remember the discussions about the 100 AI professorships in Germany. So what is your opinion?
First, actually, it's a good idea, but in practice, to really realize this, it's quite complicated. For instance, if you would like to have this US talents at German universities, and for instance, one of these talents is a professor, you need a professorship. This needs to be arranged. And then there's a quite lengthy and complicated process to appoint a professor in Germany. This is already a first step that is not that easy. And then, as you mentioned, if he's bringing with him or with her a lot of additional people, you need funding for these people. So it's also quite costly. And given, especially in German universities, funding is always an issue. And then you have the additional things for AI talents, especially in the area of large language models. You need all computing resources, which is also an issue in Germany. So it's but easy to realize.
So is it a fake debate?
Yes, to a certain degree it is. Also, besides all the points I mentioned previously, it's also questionable if all the talents we currently anticipate that might leave the US, are these really AI researchers, or might it be rather other people from other domains?
Okay.
This is also a thing we should have in mind.
Maybe the solution is to keep our good researchers in Europe. Maybe that's an idea.
That's a very good point. If you look in the breakthrough papers, for instance, or breakthrough research in the US, if you look at the names of the authors, the number of, let's say, American people is quite limited. It's mostly, or in a large degree, people from Europe, from Asia, for instance, from India or China, which are driving this kind of research. So it's really a good idea to improve the situation in Europe, in Germany, so that people, Germans or Europeans, would like to stay in Europe and find excellent research environments.
Yeah, exactly. And if we look at companies, what should they do, Marco? They have some more opportunities maybe, but I'm not sure.
They have, of course, these kind of lengthy processes I just mentioned, of course, only hold for universities. Companies have a larger degree of freedom. I think here it's also important to provide the resources, and this is not only the compute resources, but also, let's say, money resources. I guess these people are quite expensive from a salary perspective, and they need a certain degree of freedom to be really active. This is something I think they find at US companies like Microsoft, Amazon, you name it. They are more or less already acting like large academic institutions, and I don't think that you find this currently in the vast majority of German or European enterprises.
I want to come back to the salary, because the salary between a professor in US and the difference between a professor in US and in Europe is huge, right? So we talk about the difference of maybe 300,000 euros or 400,000 euros, or am I wrong?
You are right. So in Germany, for instance, professors, we have 3 different levels, so to say, W1 to W3. W3 is the highest one, and this is roughly fixed. You can look it up in tables how much it is. Of course, you can negotiate to a certain degree to have some kind of bonus, so to say, but also this is limited. So you cannot compete from this perspective with the salaries that are paid in the US.
Mm-hmm. So what is your advice at the end? What should we do now?
So really to improve the situations here in Germany, especially at universities and other institutions, so that we have the funding, the compute, the resources, so to say, that we really can ramp up and really try to compete, and that our people stay here, so that we get competitive teams in Europe. And of course, makes sense from point to point to also acquire US talents. That's objective. This to be clear, I like the idea, but therefore we really need to change the environments here. This is to a vast degree a political issue.
Thanks, Marco. It was a pleasure.
As always, thank you.
And now I will ask someone who went to the US as a European. Hello, Professor Dr. Jakub Tomczak. Jakub, what is your advice for Europe?
Right, this is a very good question. In my opinion, Europe should definitely become less risk averse and should risk way more. So at the moment, I think in Europe, we are used to this approach that, everything works just fine. We just keep going exactly as it was before. But we live in the world that we have very sudden changes. We cannot rely on others, and we should rely on ourselves. So this is definitely this would be my advice. And to be more concrete, especially in the AI world, we should, or Europe should invest more in startups. And I'm not necessarily thinking about, organizing big projects, grant proposals that after 1 year you get a decision. It's too late. I would definitely risk more in funding or giving some small tickets to startups to give this chance to people, young people especially, to grow their startups, to feed their ideas, because then we have a chance to get something amazing out of it. But for instance, the current situation, I also talk with my different colleagues, friends in Europe, and they say, so we basically don't care about these big grant proposals because it takes forever.
What needs to change in academia, Jakub?
Yeah, so you are completely right. In my opinion, we should also rethink how academia should be organized. Like right now, we have this highly hierarchical system that you climb on this ladder, and then it involves a lot of politics as well, a lot of so-called quote-unquote common sense that, after 10 years you can think of promotion and so on. So it definitely kills innovative way of thinking, disruptiveness. In my opinion, there is still in academia in Europe this hierarchical system that, hey, I'm a full professor, you're my assistant professor, so I am on the paper even though I have no clue what you're talking about, or I didn't have time to look into that. Another thing is that there is this crazy chase for grants. This is also, in my opinion, extremely weird even. I fully understand that, but if you want to get promoted, you have to gather X millions of grants. And then you have researchers or scientists that do teaching, they do supervision, they do grant proposals, writing grant proposals, and of course, carrying out research. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we should slow down, but we should just rethink that.
What should a European agenda look like?
Yeah, my point is, like, first of all, like this question is amazing, but it is like super deep. Actually, there are so many points in that. So one thing is that I don't believe in spin-offs. This is my first point. Like, universities don't have any incentives to actually help startups or spin-offs. Like, the typical situation is that they want to own the IP. They want to squeeze everything out of researchers. If it works or if it doesn't matter. What is important is that we have our statistics, one more spin-off, one more patent, and that's all. So not at all. Second is that Europe in general has this philosophy that everyone should get a piece of something, right? So if maybe you remember, there was this discussion about these big computational centers or data centers, right? Or AI factories, how it is called. And then there was this debate, where should be displaced such a way that, Germany gets one, France gets one, and so on, right? That everyone is happy, no one is left behind. And in some sense, I fully understand that. I am, through and through European, but it slows down progress. That's why I would even go as far as saying maybe we should give like 150,000 euros for startups with super lightweight review, with super lightweight process that, 1-2 months and there you go. And let's waste even 10 million euros. But if we can get one future, Google, Meta, Apple, then in 5 years we are in a completely different space. Thank you very much, Robert. It was a pleasure as always.
Thank you, Jakub. And yes, I think we still have a lot to do.